Hi there, everyone. I want to welcome you to the little mini class, Why is Costuming Important? Um, I am just going to launch right into my personal story of what shaped my view of costuming. As you know, obviously I make a lot of costuming, thousands of pieces I've sold over the years, and most of you know me from that. I started out in a really big troupe. So I went to classes, belly dance classes, just for a short while before I was invited to be part of a troupe, which is not how I would recommend it go, but it sure was fun because this was a phenomenal group of women, as so many of you, have had the same experience of just being with incredible people in the context of dance. And because I was in a troupe, I had to immediately start trying to make my own costuming because we were what we called at that time tribal fusion, and usually the costuming is something that you make yourself rather than purchase. And so that was my struggle. I had never sewn before. I never made anything. I made a little bit of jewelry, and that was all I'd ever done. So as I was such a baby dancer. And if you know anything about me or have seen my old pictures, you can see that in my costuming, in my dancing, everything. We've all been there. So as I continued to grow, I was exposed to more and more costumes through the people in my troupe, many of which had been or were actively teaching belly dance. And so I got to see their costumes, and they were so different because many of the teachers had been cabaret or Egyptian style performers and teachers rather than tribal fusion. So it was so clear to me, like night and day, the two types, or if you can even say there's two. There's also tribaret, which is like a blending, and then there's all the little permutations within all of that. And there was a fabulous designer in my troupe her name is Jennifer Ramatar. I like to give credit where credit is due. And I'm so lucky to have a few of her pieces yet. But she was so inventive. Her pieces were so beautiful, her costumes. It was like the kind of costumes that people come running up to you and ask everything about them, and they just cannot believe that the costume even exists and that you made it. So I was really lucky to have her in my troupe. And as time went on, I realized that I started going to Hoffalas and things and seeing other troupes costuming, started going to shows and being in the shows, and there was a lot of expectation for our costumes to look good together, etc. And so I learned as quickly as I could. And I'm sure a lot of you have been in that same boat, or else maybe you're just really overwhelmed. I don't even know where to start learning as quickly as I can. And maybe you don't need to learn as quickly as you can, which is ideal, really. But anyway, so I started seeing that there were great amount of, look at my finger, I put on blush, and it's that kind where it's like a stain. Nice. So now I have a red finger. Anyway, so it's there's huge differences in the styles of costuming and huge differences in the quality of costuming. And there is no right or wrong about any of that. Costuming is, and this is my first real point, communication. Costuming is communication. So I started to feel uncomfortable with my costuming because I felt like I started getting it that your dance and your persona as you dance should have a feeling to it, and sometimes there's a very specific meaning to the dances we're doing. Sometimes there's a cultural context that requires a certain type of costuming. And I didn't anymore, as I got to be a better dancer over the years, I didn't anymore want to come across as a beginner dancer, because that is part of what your costuming can convey. And I started being more careful about the pieces I put on my costuming, the quality of the materials, and I started becoming a collector. So I became like, I would haunt the antique stores and, you know, flea markets and thrift shops and take apart old pieces of jewelry and buy lots of like broken jewelry and then make that into something else. And so that had to be high quality to begin with, but then like if it was broken, who cared? Because I wasn't going to use it as a necklace anyway. I was going to sew it onto a bra. So that's some of my thinking. So what I was trying to like narrow down into a understanding for myself was that costuming was me communicating instantly with my audience before I ever did one dance move, unless you come dancing onto the stage, which is cool too. But even if you didn't, if you started in place with your back turned toward the audience, even your costume is the first thing they're going to notice. Their costume and your face, your expression. So that brings me to my first point, which is that costuming is, or it's my second point really. So costuming is communication, and it's been used forever. Like since we probably pre-lingually, we probably have used colors or certain types of clothing or jewelry to communicate certain things and ideas to each other, maybe even before we had speech. So I want you to travel back in time right now to the very first person ever. He's wandering around naked, and he picks up maybe a shell on the seashore with a hole in it, and he sticks a little bit of, you know, some material, grass or leather throughout it, through the hole, and puts it on as a necklace. Why would he do that? But yet we find those shells with a hole drilled in them in all of these really old archaeological digs all over the world. Why would he do that? The shell would get in the way. There's no purpose for the shell. It gets in your way, it knocks you in the teeth when you bend over, which if you're a cave person, you're doing a lot. There's no practical purpose for that shell. There's no practical purpose for me to wear earrings that get caught in my hair. You know what I mean? Or long ones that when I turn my head quickly, it's going to hit me in the face. Like, there's no practical purpose for survival. So why did they wear those? The same reason we do today, because it symbolized something. Who knows what it symbolized? Maybe status. Maybe if you wore that shell, you were a certain leader in the community, or not. Maybe you were ill if you wore that kind of shell, and it was a signal to everyone else to stay away. Maybe it symbolized something really abstract, like the moon. A lot of people, because the tides go in and out with the moon, they will connect things that are from the ocean with the moon. So the shell is like a symbol of the moon, which at that time probably was seen as some kind of a deity. So it could have been a religious symbol possibly. And we do see that also all throughout old religions and new. So as abstract as that is, it's something that is very common. It's a conclusion that humans have come to for a long time. So things like that, the symbolism of things in your costuming communicates things. So everything from the way your costuming flows or doesn't flow, like think panel skirt as compared to a circle skirt, and the different types of fabric. How does it move? Is it fluttering and soft like silk? Is it harsh like the whole thing is made out of different pieces of metal? Does it make a noise? All these things are symbolic within your dance. So they're going to communicate things to your, sorry, I had a notification, to your audience just automatically and quickly. So it's really important what type of a costume you wear. Okay, that was part 1. We'll go on to part 2 in a little bit, but I have to charge my phone. So, see you here and the next video.